Hi, welcome to Church Live Streaming, The Essential Guide. In this section, we're going to talk about the importance of lighting and how to improve it for cheaply or even free. Lighting is one of the most important things you can do for a stream. So this is a really important section that most people don't even think, oh, that's going to help my stream. Yeah, this is going to help your stream. If you've not seen our previous sections, I encourage you to start with part 1, work your way through all the material up to this point. We'll cover a lot of ground and highlight a lot of important information in those sections. Otherwise, let's continue. So let's talk about lighting. So I'm going to go fast through this because you guys don't want to learn all this stuff, but I want you to be aware of it. The single most important change you can make to improve your image quality is lighting, and that starts with color temperature, or you're going to get bit. Make a $70 camera look good. It can make a $200 camera look great. It can make a $1,000 camera look fantastic. You can get a professional quality headshot with an iPhone 4 if you light it well. And people will pay you money for it. And they'll go, wow, that's a beautiful photo. But you can't do it as easily as if you have a good camera that is more forgiving and lets you fix it in Photoshop, right? But lighting is that important. So you can make your whole frame and set look great. I could have put something in the window behind me, but I want you to see what things like that do. Notice how it affects the exposure, right? When I pull over here to the side, and the camera's on auto, so it's automatically doing stuff. So I wouldn't let my camera automatically do stuff. But I want you to see what goes on with that. When you see people who talk about streaming and stuff, and they're using their stream setup, they're in a perfectly darkened off bedroom that then they light perfectly. And so time they turn things on, it always looks good. Well, you want to kind of do that. I didn't want to for this case. And normally I stream at night, so I don't care. I have kind of a cool spotlight that comes down on that thing. And I also use a green screen. I pull out my green screen and hide it behind, or hang it behind me, and I can put any background behind I want. And plus I can have the game background going on behind me. But I didn't think you really wanted to see my green screen. So the point is that you want to consider the background, how that's lit, and light sources that are in it, and me, the subject, and you want to consider everything that's in your scene for lighting. And the thing to know is that there's multiple things about lighting. There's brightness, there's color temperature, there's the nature, and then we can modify it. So brightness is just how bright is the light. Like we got sunlight streaming in that window. I've got sunlight bouncing off a red wall over here. And I've got diffuse light other places. But it's pretty bright in here right now. Later on, it's going to get darker. You turn the lights out, it gets really dark. So brightness, is it bright? You can adjust the brightness to match what your camera can handle. The color temperature is a whole different thing. So in the middle of the day, the color temperature, as you see this chart here, I loved this. I hadn't seen it before. At high noon, it's this blue kind of light. And as you get to the sunrise and sunset sides, it's very orange and golden. That's why it's called the golden hour. And that's because the blue sky is filtering out the oxygen in the air is filtering out the blue light waves, and we're getting more of the orange. But if you look down at the CRI rating, the bottom right here, notice the big blob in the back. That's what the sun puts out. That's got, I'm going the wrong way here. That's got a full spectrum natural daylight at high noon. All of that visible light at those wavelengths is what comes off the sun. It's still filtered a little bit because of our atmosphere, but if you're out in space, it'd look a little bit different, but that's what we get. An LED puts out, notice, a lot less of the deep blues and the real deep reds, and almost none of the really deep purples. And a incandescent, like a filament, tungsten, I can't say it, filament, that Thomas Edison thing, that gives off very little of the lower end of the spectrum, but it gives you a nice, warm, bright yellows through reds. That's why tungsten's so orange looking. And a CFL, like a compact fluorescent, it's a nightmare. It's just weird colors everywhere and a ton of green. And that's why people actually look green under CFL and fluorescent lighting, and it's just terrible. So you want to be careful. Notice on the left bottom, we have different light fixtures with different light bulbs, and those light bulbs have different color temperatures. Be careful when you're buying your light bulbs to light yourself, if you're doing it on the cheap, that you match the color temperature that you want for your scene, because professional lights let you dial in the color temperature. Like I've got nice little lights that I can turn the color temperature from 32 or even 2700 Kelvin up to 8000 Kelvin. And so I can match under the shade, or I can match evening, or I can match candlelight, or I can match bright noon sun. And your monitor gives off a certain color temperature, typically 4500, 4000, maybe 5000, depends on the quality of the monitor and the LEDs behind it. And so if you're going to be illuminating yourself a lot with your monitor, find out what that is, and then find lights that match it. And you'll have, not weird, strange casts of two different kinds of light fighting each other. You can see all sorts of different light things going on right now because I've got sunlight bouncing in, and it's bouncing off a really deep red Tuscan wall like you see in the background. I've got that in front of me. So there's all sorts of weird lighting things going on here. But you'll see that when you're doing your stuff. So we've got how bright it is, we've got the color temperature, and then there's the character and nature of it. So notice the guy on the left has really sharp, hard shadows. Notice the shadow coming off his nose right underneath his eye. It's just this razor edge shadow. But the guy on the right, his really soft, gentle, smooth, wrapped light. Well, the only difference between those two shots is that the one is the bare light hitting him from a small point light source, and the other one is a soft, diffused light. And we diffuse light with anything that's handy. Honestly, as I've been a portrait photographer for a long time now, and light is light is light is light. You can see that GVM video LED panel lighting system. It has RGB color variations and stuff like that. And it's cheap. It's like $350 or so, and you get 3 pretty good size LED panels that you can change remotely with an iPhone to reds and greens and blues. It'll do lightning effects and candlelight effects. It can change your color temperature from 27 to I think 6000 Kelvin. So it's perfect for doing video work, and it'd be perfect for lighting your stream. It's probably more than you want to pay, but it's no different, no better than putting a light bulb and bouncing it off a piece of white foam core, if you get the light bulb that has the color temperature that you want in the first place. This will let you make a wider light source from the get-go and adjust the color and the brightness really easily. It's got dimmer also. A light bulb, you have to add a dimmer to it, and you have to get the right color temperature in it. If you want to change the color temperature, you have to change the light bulbs, right? So professional lighting has these niceties that make it easier to adapt to different situations. But if you know what your situation is going to be, just get the cheap stuff for now and make an improvement. You don't really see it right there, but there's a little tinier, smaller light underneath there, and I don't want to switch scenes. That's maybe $30, $50. Maybe I don't remember. Did I put the price over there? I didn't. They're like $30 to $50, and you could get 2 of those and put them to either side of you, just out of frame, above the monitor, and they'll light you up, and you'll look great. And people say, "What happened?" And you'll say, I just look great. But they're bigger than a point light source, and they're going to be a soft wrapping light. And the bigger the source, the softer the light. If I was to get rid of the sun, this monitor is a big wrapping light source, and it would light my face really nicely until I go to a dark planet where I'm being shot at by mechs who have night vision, and then my face is going to be black with puffs of orange as I get blown up. So you have to have some lighting that is independent of whatever's changing on the screen, and control is then the issue. But light is light is light is light is light. You can grab a light from anywhere in your house and bounce it off of a sheet, or bounce it off of a couple sheets of paper. I've literally taken shots of people through pieces of paper with my flash before, where I'll hold it this far away from their head, right? I'll hold it right there, and I'll pop my flash through it, and it makes this big diffuse light, and they look amazing. I didn't have to have a $3,000 light modifier. So bigger light source is going to look more flattering. Modifiers include things like umbrellas, soft boxes, and soft umbrellas and things like that. Those are common. I have all of those things. I used all of those things for still photography, and I use them for video sometimes. Reflector panels, like those white ones, one is partly transparent or translucent. They're both translucent, actually. One's very translucent. And they reduce the light, or they diffuse the light, or they do both. Or they bounce and reflect the light. The other one's a silver or gold reflector. They'll bounce a lot of light back into a subject. You don't usually want to use those. There's barn doors to control the spread of light. I actually have those on some lights up I have hanging up here. And there's grids, which I have on a light that I'm shining on that thing back there. And there's spots, gobos and snoots, that snoot thing with the little colored gels. The gobos are the little things with the funny patterns. You put those in front of a light and they'll cast cool shadows on the wall. You can do that with a flashlight, an LED light, and cut some cardboard slots and shapes and put it in front of the flashlight, point it at the wall during your stream, and it'll look like you've got, or shoot it through a plant, the leaves of a plant, and it'll look like you've got this cool kind of lighting thing, and put a colored gel in front of it and it'll look cool. So you can do all this stuff for free, basically. And then those little black things there, those are flags, or they're basically blocking or absorbing light. So you can have light not bounce back as much from something and not as strong of fill on somebody's face. And there's a whole bunch of gels there. So we're going to move on. All of that stuff, some of that's mostly expensive stuff, right? It adds up. But you can do all this stuff for free. And this is the more important part. You have windows, use your windows. Use the lights you have in the house. Use diffusers, and you can go down and buy some ripstop super thin fabric. I have some actually that I hang in front of my window when it gets really hot, the other window to the side of me, so the sun doesn't blast in and kill me. And it costs like $4, and I hang it over the window and keeps the room a lot cooler. But it also makes this beautiful diffused light, so if I want to go stand there and take a picture, it's all ready to go. You can get foam core artboard, and you can bounce light with that and use light fill. So here's some little lighting diagrams. Notice there's that chair, the top thing on top picture. There's a chair by window light. Window light has been used for hundreds and hundreds of years for portrait paintings and portrait photographs more recently, and still used today. It's beautiful, it wraps, it's soft, it's big, it's a big light source. You get close to it and you get gorgeousness. If you don't have a window, this guy faked a window. I do that all the time. I set up a scrim, I run light shining through it so that it hits it, and then it diffuses it in all different directions. I don't get a strong beam, and I get a beautiful soft wrapping light. What you're seeing on me is a lot of light from different places. It does the same thing. If I've got a lot of light sources, they're going to become more wrapping, and they're going to cover stuff up, like wrinkles. Nobody wants wrinkles. And then down below, we've got that window with a reflector. So just like our scene above, both those scenes, we've got the window on one side, and you can take a white foam core and bounce some of that light to the shadow side of your subject, and then that subject's going to look really nice, and set your webcam out in front of them, right? If you've got a bigger room with windows, bring your camera right by the windows and put your subject back a ways from the windows, and your background's going to be darker because it's further back, and your subject's going to look beautifully lit evenly. It'll be gorgeous. And if you want to add a little bit of separation, notice that on my on this side there's nothing. It just kind of blends in with the background. But on this other side, there's a little bit of highlight around my ear and around the hair here and around my shoulder coming from that window. That's a kicker. It's a kicker light. So having that window there also shows you other things that can go on. I've got a little light that I turn on here when I stream, and that turns on and gives me a little bit of a kicker light on the same side. So that doesn't help. But if I had it on the other side, it would give me a kicker light on that side. So you can separate the background. That's just a little gridded spot that I stuck up there on that drawing down below where the window rim kicker light. You could set up a little spot. The reason I put a grid on it, and you could make a grid, by the way, out of things like toilet paper rolls. I might have shown a picture of that later on. The reason I put a grid on it is so that the light's not bare and shining directly into the lens of my camera, which will make some lens flare. And then You can even use if you don't want to go buy, I'm going to show you some expensive lights besides those other ones, the 3-pack LED panels. You can buy some foam core boards and stick them. You could cut it in half, so you'd have 2 big foam core panels that you're sitting, up in front of your monitor, up above it, just right behind it. And then you could literally shine some spotlights at it, put them on dimmers so you can adjust them, but you could shine some spotlights, maybe get some 3200 Kelvin spotlights. Nah, not when you're streaming. They're not going to go very well with your monitor. So get some 4000 Kelvin or 5000 Kelvin LED spotlights. And that way they won't get hot or anything like that. And just aim them at those panels, and those panels will become 2 big diffuser soft lights, and you'll look fantastic. And you can do the same thing, put them on a stand or something, or have a kid hold them, and you can shine a light at them. They can hold the light in one hand and the panel in the other because it's light. They're going to get tired. They're not really going to do that in a real stream. But just to get an idea what you can do with it, kind of move it around like, oh, okay, I like it here. Then set it on a stand, a cheap stand. Set it on a chair. Do whatever you have to fix it. And light your subject, and they'll look fantastic. And if you want it to be softer, use the full sheet of foam core. Don't cut it in half, and bounce that light. I've taken some beautiful portraits with a single flash, aimed away from the subject, bounced off of a big sheet of foam core that's 3 feet away from the subject, and you'd never know that the shot was taken with a $3 sheet of foam core. It's gorgeous. It looks like it was shot, with a $2,000 softbox or something like that. So there you go. Green screens we're going to blow through real quickly. If you want to know about green screens, I'm going to leave this here and let you kind of look at it. You can come back and look at this and read it yourself. The main thing to highlight here is that notice the top-down view on the far right of the person on the green screen. Light your background. Light your background separate from the subject, and have your subject in front of those lights so they're not picking up any of that light. And you want to light your background smoothly and evenly to minimize any wrinkles and to make the color gradient consistent as much as possible throughout the entire background. What that does is it gives you a nice, easy key. So it's one click, one click, or even an automatic key. Boom, done, happens, looks great. And it's all because of the lighting of that background. So light your background evenly. You don't have to you can get paper backgrounds, you can get collapsible fabric backgrounds, and you can get paint. And there's expensive paint and there's do-yourself paint. And there's this little lighting tube. Check that out. It's really great. They work great for that. Hey, that's it for now for lighting. There's tons more you can learn, of course. And there's lots of great tutorials and how-to videos up on YouTube for lighting. And we might come back and address some of that later. But I just wanted to give you the overview of kind of what's going on in that area. In our next section, we're going to talk about the additional input sources like Zoom and Skype and other computers, iPads, NDI sources for your overheads and lyrics, PowerPoints, and a lot more. What you don't realize is you can bring all this stuff together into one stream very easily using software like Open Broadcaster or XSplit. So we'll dive into that next. If you haven't already done so, remember to click that subscribe button, the notification bell, and share this video series with someone who might benefit from it. See you soon.